Solar energy is just not easy. It's definitely a challenging ordeal, and one that you want to start small and build it up over time, especially if you're new to it. Uh, of course, if you have experience, yeah, go ahead and build off my design. But know for those just starting out that there's a reason why it's not common in the marketplace. There's a reason why you don't see it in retailers. Uh, these components are mostly found online now, and of course, many of these solar energy now it's being politicized between China and the U.S., for example, having two opposite perspectives about it. So try to also realize that and look at this in a subjective, more scientific view of what works, what's complementary to the existing components of your system, because that could be later challenge. For example, if you want to download your data later, yeah, you need an additional component, and ideally this is compatible with your existing system to allow you to download all the data from your solar system. So look at uh, this holistically and know that this is a long-term solution to not just growing your food but also being self-sufficient. So that's also why we went down this path, because it's not only securing our food supply but also giving us energy when it's sunny, quite rare in the Netherlands. But most players don't do it because it's also a higher cost, meaning the status quo won't necessarily see clean energy as profitable, especially when they're not doing so great, or yeah, have stakeholders that just are greedy. The market system, the market forces always push you in that direction. So you know that if you have less inputs or you become even more sustainable, you're going to be less profitable. And that's the market that we're in. So we have to understand those dynamics and take the best approach holistically. So that's why sometimes when you get into these technologies, they can either be, yeah, very short-lived or require a high investment for you. And in order for you to justify that higher investment, you have to extend your perspective or your, let's say, your profits for many years to come. You have to have a long-term over outlook on your finances. That's it. So be aware of that and understand that it's not easy, and it's not what mainly people are doing, but it has a great opportunity at this moment as solar energy has become even more efficient and more affordable, especially many components that are coming out of China and of course Europe. So we need to let's say come together and establish what works in the right way and what's also profitable for many entrepreneurs who are just starting out, that don't want to lose these principles and greenwash everything, but want to really implement and integrate clean, renewable technologies such as solar power systems. So, with that, let's get into it because there's a lot more to share. Here's our EYM solar PV system design with EFTFE solar panels. These are fabric lightweight solar panels. Each one has a max wattage of 100, volts of 18, and current of 5.5 amps. This connection is done in series, as you can see, the positive and the negative, and then at either end, it's connected. The wires are drawn down to a fuse box, and the fuse box is later connected to the charge controller. Charge controller, in this case, being a Tracer 2210. Again, the charge controller is what's optimizing also the power usage, also preventing any overcharge or over discharging. And later on, you see at the bottom of the charge controller two wires that charge the batteries or a load at the bottom. And we've used two of the same identical batteries. So they're each 12 volts, 100 amps, as you can see on the battery. And they are AGM type. So they're not lead. and they're not lithium. They're right in the middle. So not the cheapest and not the most expensive. But it also, in comparison to lead batteries, AGMs allows for higher capacity usage. So in other words, lead would only allow you 20% of the battery to be used, versus AGM is 50%. Lithium, you get into 100%. So, and of course, with that is higher costs. And as you can see, the batteries are connected via parallel connection, and the parallel connection keeps the voltage but doubles the amps. So you can see it's 12 volts and 200 amps. So from there, also the batteries are connected, and also they are powering an inverter via the fuse box. So first it goes via a fuse, and then and also a breaker, and then it goes to a 12-volt inverter. Make sure also your inverter is matching. If it's a series connection or if it's a 24-volt battery, make sure it's also a 24-volt inverter. And that's basically just converting your DC or direct current to AC, alternating current. And from there, we draw a long extension, and we are able to power our microgreens racks, both the lights and the fans. So just to recap, this diagram shows you a series connection for the photovoltaic panels on the top left and a parallel connection for the AGM deep cycle batteries on the bottom left. And now I'm going to show you what a parallel connection for the batteries look like.
These are two 12-volt, 100 amp AGM batteries connected in parallel. You can see there, these two. See those two there going up to that breaker and then to the inverter, and higher up you have your MPPT charge controller.
So this is almost the same type of system. The main difference being that it's the batteries are connected in series instead of parallel. As you can see on the bottom left, the batteries are connected like the solar panels in a series connection, which means that they double their voltage to 24 volts but maintain their amps. So it stays at 100 amps, still of course the same total amount of watts, 2400 watts, and that's of course being again sent to an inverter that now is 24 volt inverter, and that inverter is able to power via AC our microgreens grow rack, which includes LED lights and fans. And also another side note, that if you do still want or require 12 volt DC power, direct current power, it is still possible to use a converter of that from your charge controller point. So you can always drop down from 24 to 12 volts if needed, and make sure that your battery capacity is maintained at 24 volts. Yeah, and there are several benefits to going up to 24 volts instead of 12 volts. One of them being costs and the ability to scale up. So if you're going to be adding more panels, it's much easier to keep it at 24 volts than it is then to first start with 12 volts and then have to buy additional components to convert it to a 24 volt system. So in those situations, I would definitely recommend then going for 24 volts. That's why also I did it in that way. I actually started with the 12 volt system, and now I have a 20 volt system, so that increases my voltage and lowers my amps. The same with my panels. And of course the panels are a little different, since let's say you do have them in series, and then at the same time you are having some shade come in let's say half the day. The influence that that one panel has on the rest is definitely greater than if those panels were wired with a parallel connection. So you can basically split off the system and maintain the same level of sunlight throughout the system. So that's for another conversation perhaps. But again, ideally you want to start with the series, because it keeps your amps lower. And in that sense, it also keeps your wires thinner. If you're doing more parallel connections, you got to think about how do I carry that higher amperage or current via the wires, and for that you need thicker wires, which they're all made out of copper, and copper is very expensive. So it's related to that, and of course a few other factors. But that's all I'm going to talk about. Don't have all the knowledge, but at least I want you to learn from what I've done and what has worked for us. And I hope that yeah, you can get started as soon as possible.
Okay, so wanted to continue this video more with a more clear presentation and understanding of what it is to connect two identical 12-volt batteries together in series. Okay, you need one battery's negative terminal, which is here. I have screws, so I'm going to grab you show you how you screw it in. And then also here's the other side, which is a positive side. So they're flipped around. So basically you're going to grab a thick cable such as a 8 AWG or gauge cable or something thicker. This is, I believe, a 16 millimeter squared cable. And so yeah, the thicker the better. So just put one to the negative side, one to the positive side. Simply with, you see these screws here. Sometimes you can have battery terminals. Sometimes your inverters or a kit, battery kit comes with it, so you can use what works best. But for me, it's just simple screws. So as you can see, here you might get a little spark. Just be careful. Always use caution. And that's it. That's basically it. You also can test now the connection from the two with a meter. So let's test it out. Make sure this is running now at 24 DC. Yep. Oh, I have to get to the opposite sides, I guess. Right? Yeah. So the opposite sides will tell you the volts. 24 volts. Here, nothing. No. And then, of course, for the amps, you also can get here the right amps. So you can see 100 amps. So the amps stay the same, but the volts double. So 26 volts. I just ended up actually recharging these two batteries with a slow charger, since they were basically depleted the entire winter, weren't ever fully charged for the long winter here in the Netherlands. It's a very cloudy place. But yeah, that's the connection for the series. So now we can go ahead and continue our connection here with the positive and the negative connection. That feeds the inverter and also connects the charge controller with our battery bank. That show you how your solar array system is doing. So yeah, here I've installed a breaker for the solar panels so far, and like I said, this is my DC fuse box, so this is leading to the house only for lights for now. And then I have the two bottom wires here connected down to my battery, which is down here, and the battery has a BMS system, that'll also Bluetooth system, so I can read how the charge is doing also over time. And then the wiring for the solar panels are coming in from here, which lead over there to the solar panels. So I've installed 4 panels, 100 watts each, nominal of course, and all 4 facing south, since this is the best roof I have in that direction. So yeah, that's enough apparently to charge my battery for now, my load, and then I can start installing now the inverter for the racks that are going to be lit on inside the greenhouse.
I just wanted to share with you what we've done at our off-grid site with solar panels and greenhouses. First, on the left, you can see a rack inside a greenhouse. Basically, I built this greenhouse with the idea of growing microgreens and also using it as solar panel support. And since also the roof is facing south, it was at the time ideal for the solar panels, unlike the cabin roof, which actually faces east and west. So that's where I spent half the year building and trying to optimize the production. As you'll see in later videos, it didn't go as planned. The greenhouse was extremely weak, had far too many weak points, openings, just a very extreme poor design and just low quality materials. So a combination that's meant to fail. I just ended up wasting a lot of my time, a lot of extra tape, bubble wrap to try to keep it sealed and insulated. I did support, yeah, some panels for a very short time, but in the end, I just we went with a mounting system separate from the greenhouse as we knocked down the greenhouse or whatever it's supposed to be, and me and Mike went to work on a frame for the four fabric-like solar panels and the support mounts. At the beginning, it was low to the ground, and later we made a new version so we can get it over more trees, so higher off the ground. Picture on the top right is the second version, together with a tilt system, so it could follow the sun's horizon as the seasons change. So we have that as well on the other side, using natural ingredients. And of course, after that system, we went with the monocrystalline solar panels, much bigger and heavier. So on the rooftop, the best with some mounting brackets. That's what I used to install them, and of course, an additional support to carry them up and move them around the roof as well. Very important to do. So that's what we did. This grow rack contains 5 total shelves. 3 shelves are for growing 9 trays of 1020s or up to, and the bottom 2 shelves are for a total of 9 or even 18 trays that you can also stack without the humidity domes and put in the dark with black cover that I have underneath these trays. So this comes out, it covers everything in order for the seeds to properly germinate in 2 to 3 days. After the fact, you can easily put them above where you have plenty of space to grow your microgreens. Most of the greens here are growing in 5 to 10 days, such as the radish. We have red kale, red cabbage, some red mizuna, the super healthy broccoli, and sunflower shoots. So you can see that. Also the fans and the hygrometers measuring the top 2 factors that we need to control temperature and humidity. The fans for your airflow, and it seems to be working. So I'm curious to know what everybody thinks about this. If you think this is a good idea, something you'd like to try out, check out our website, come by our farmers market, visit our urban farm here in Aalsmeer. Everything is possible. And the last thing before I forget is the BMS, or the battery monitoring system. This is Bluetooth enabled. Just have to connect it to either battery, so one on the positive side
should be here, the hot side. Okay. And one for the negative side. So yeah, you want to also tighten it with the simple wrench as well. So I got it on, and just give it a few twists until it's nicely fastened, especially the ones with multiple cables around it. Okay.